So, how do we get a certificate from a trusted CA? It's not like grocery shopping. CAs aren't next to the produce aisle. Well, here are the steps to take. Step 1. You need to register with the CA. This usually means proving your identity. On a private network, you might auto-enroll through whatever the company requires by policy. On the public internet, a CA might check who record, do email verification, or require documentation. The next step is to generate a key pair. The subject, you, your server, etc., create a public-private key pair using something like RSA or ECC. Remember, keep the private key secure. It should never be shared. Step 3. You generate a certificate signer request, CSR. This file includes your public key and the information you want on the certificate, like your domain name. You send the CSR to the CA. And then step 4. The CA verifies and signs. The CA reviews your request. For a web cert, they check things like, does your subject name match your FQDN, your fully qualified domain name? Are you authorized to manage that domain? They might check this through UIS or DNS validation. If everything looks good, the CA signs the cert and sends it back to you. Congrats, you now have a valid certificate. Back when digital certificates were new, we relied on a common name field to identify a certificate subject. For a web server, that means putting the fully qualified domain name like www.pjcourses.com in the CN field. This became the standard by habit, not design. The problem? The CN field isn't structured to represent domain names only. It could contain anything, and that made automated validation difficult and inconsistent. To fix this, the industry shifted to using the Subject Alternative Name, SAN field, instead. The SAN field is specifically designed to hold multiple types of identifiers, FQDNs, we're talking IP addresses, email addresses, and more. If a certificate includes a SAN field, browsers will and should ignore the CN altogether and validate based on the SAN. That said, it is still good practice to include the FQDN in the CN field, just to stay compatible with older software that may not fully follow the SAN standard yet. The SAN field is powerful. You can list multiple FQDNs or subdomains like www.pjcourses.com and members.pjcourses.com. But here's the catch. Every time you add a new subdomain, you'll need to reissue the certificate. To solve that, you can use what we call a wildcard certificate. A wildcard SAN like *.pjcourses.com allows one certificate to secure any subdomain at a single level, like blog.pjcourses.com or shop.pjcourses.com, as long as it matches the pattern. Get it? Good. If not, rewind. All right. I need you to also know that certificates also include identity information beyond just the domain name. These attributes come together to form what we call a distinguished name, DN. A DN is made up of fields like CN, common name, we just talked about that. It includes a field labeled OU, organizational unit, L, locality, meaning your city, ST is your state or province, and C is for your country. For example, a DN could look like this. www.example.com is the CN. The OU would be web hosting. O would be Example LLC, assuming that's the company's name. L would be Chicago, assuming they're stationed in Chicago, ST Illinois, and C US. This level of detail is especially important in certificate issued for more than just securing a website. For example, if it's an email certificate, they use an email address in the SAN to verify the user. For code signing certificates, these certs are used to make sure codes have not been altered. They verify the developer or publisher of software. These usually skip the SAN field, but still require organization and location details to prevent impersonation. Certificates have expiration dates, but sometimes a certificate may need to be shut down before it expires. That's where revocation and suspension comes in. A revoked certificate is permanently invalid. It cannot be reinstated. A suspended certificate is temporarily disabled. It can be restored later. Certificates may be revoked or suspended for many reasons. For example, if the company shut down, if the domain name changed, if there was human error, If there's a key compromise, a CA compromise, if it was superseded, cessation of operation, or the certificate is on hold for suspension. I know what you're thinking. How do users or browsers find out that a cert has been revoked? Well, a certificate revocation list, CRL, is a list of certificates that a CA has revoked or superseded. It's signed by the CA and published regularly to one or more distribution points. Each certificate includes information on where to check the CRL. A typical CRL contains published period, when it was last published, distribution points, that's where it's located, validity period, how long the CRL is considered current, and signature from the CA to prove it's genuine. Here's the risk with CRL though. They're published periodically, like every 24 hours. So there's a window where a certificate might be revoked but not yet reflected in the CRL. Also, some older apps and browsers may not even check the CRLs. To fix CRL delays, we have Online Certificate Status Protocol, OCSP. It's like real-time certificate check-in. Instead of downloading the full revocation list, your browser pings an OCSP server and asks, is this specific certificate still valid? OCSP responder returns with one of these three statuses: good, revoked, unknown. Some OCSP responder check the certificate database in real time. Others just rely on the most recent CRL in the background. Either way, OCSP provides a faster and more efficient way to check a certificate current status. All right, that's it for now. I know that was a lot. Let's go over what we learned. We learned a CSR is your formal request to a CA to issue a certificate based on your public key. We also learned that CN is used to hold the domain but is now outdated. SAN is the standard. We learned SAN allows listing multiple domains or subdomains, and Wildcard covered them all at one level. We learned certificates include full identity details in the distinguished name. We learned revoke means permanently invalid, suspend can be restored. And finally, we learned CRL and OCSP are used to check if a certificate is still valid. See you in the next one.